Hello and welcome, fellow bookworms and film fans. Welcome to this week's book review of the Contented Narrative, where we will be looking at Stillhouse Lake by Rachel Caine. Now, this is another author that I have met in person. She has written the Morganville Vampire series books, which are incredibly nice, incredibly great. We've got Smoke of Fire and Song of Smoke of I can't remember what the other one's called. She's written a lot basically, but this is the first one that I thought I would talk to you guys about. So this deals with our main character, who is a wife and mother, but she's the wife of a serial killer. Now, that's exactly sort of like what I was thinking. Okay, so basically what it is she's been living this perfect life with her husband and her kids, and she's not thought anything of it. And then one day, this truck kind of like comes off the road and smashes into the side of her house. So she comes home from picking up the kids, and there's police and everything over there, and she then gets arrested and doesn't quite know why. And it turns out her husband is a serial killer and has been for absolute years. Now this deals with a very, very good sort of like thing, especially with our with our obsession with serial killers in today's environment. And I'm using the word obsession because it is an obsession. I mean, the amount of documentaries that are out there, sorry about that, the amount of TV series that are out there. I mean, like, you know, me and my husband, we've watched several over the years. We've watched Dares, we've watched Appropriate Adult. There was that one on BBC iPlayer, I can't remember what that was called, about the bikini killer. Oh, The Serpent, that's what it was called. You know, we've watched loads, and he watches all the documentaries as well, and you've got series like Mindhunter as well, but we are, as a nation, obsessed with serial killers. But it always deals with the thing that how can you not know that your partner or your child or your parent or whatever is a serial killer? And this kind of deals with how she was picked up from, you know, what I say picked up, she was kind of wooed from a younger age. She was very susceptible. She basically met this handsome man that was charming and spent money on her and was really nice. And the one rule he ever had was, if I'm working in the garage, don't disturb me. And she never thought twice about it. But then obviously she gets tried as an accomplice. She doesn't get convicted, but then she has to go on the run with her kids because this guy killed a lot of people, and it was a lot of girls, and it was in horrible ways and dismembered them. So she goes on the run, and then she kind of ends up finding this nice little safe space for her and her kids, or so she thought. She's got an escape plan, she's learned how to shoot a gun, she's turned herself into a completely different person, not just through her records and her IDs as well, but through who she is, and she's determined that she's not going to let this happen again. All the while that this is going on, her ex-husband is still kind of managing to send posts to her and send letters, and it'll start off with like a nice one, then it'll become aggressive, and then it'll come basically explicit and horrific. So she's got this fear now built in, and so she's always on her guard. And when she thinks she's found this safe place, she's found this nice house, she starts building it up, it becomes, you know, the children start to, I mean, if you're, obviously she tries to keep them away from it, but it's quite obvious, and they will find out. So they, you know, they don't quite understand what's going on and why she's so paranoid, but so she kind of tries to keep them out with it. And when they find this nice place and they settle down and she starts making friends, a murder happens in the exact same way that her ex-husband used to kill girls, which puts her immediately on edge because it's right by the lake by her house, hence Stillhouse Lake. So she starts seeing, she's paranoid, she starts seeing ghosts and everything, and then she meets this lovely guy, and he becomes almost like a confidant, quite close to her, before she realises that in actuality he knew all along what her past was. He was the brother of the last victim, so he was actually looking to kind of get revenge, and then he realised that he actually fell in love with her and realised that she had nothing to do with it. But it is a case of, it deals so well, and the narrative is so brilliantly done with what happens with the children, because obviously, you know, the partners will be tried as, you know, accessories and stuff, but what happens with the children? They are the children of a serial killer. How do they deal with it? But also, what happens with the partners? Because even though she was tried and not found not guilty, she's now running for her life, and she's paranoid at every turn. And it looks into this paranoia, and it looks into the kind of this fear, and the fact that, you know, it's just, it keeps building. And honestly, you, like, the whole time you're reading this book, you're kind of going, oh my god, like, you know when you get that kind of like stress almost, like where your heart doesn't quite work properly. So you sort of sat there going, oh, my heart needs to start again. I wonder how this is going to go down. And it carries on like that. And you just sat there and you're just wondering when the drop's going to fall out. And I mean, I'm not going to lie. I watch a lot of murder mysteries. I read a lot of murder mysteries. I try not to make them all murder mysteries, but if you look at my shelves, a lot of them are murder mysteries. So I always try and figure out who the killer is before it. And I got to the killer a couple of chapters before it was revealed, which I consider brilliant. Because, I mean, there have been times when I figured out the killer within like a couple of chapters, and I kind of sat there going, and when are they going to figure this out? Whereas I was literally just sat there going, it could be him, it could be him, it could be, it could be her, it could be this. And honestly, Rachel Caine, like, considering that I first started reading her, as I said, with the vampire series, Morganville Vampire series, which is basically not glittery vampires like Twilight, but it is basically like love and romance and, you know, and it deals with vampires, and it's this whole vampire city essentially. And so I was like, okay. And then I read another series by her that my husband was buying for me, and it's about the Great Library. And it's what happens if knowledge is outlawed and stuff like that. And again, I was like, this is really good, but it's a whole different thing. And so then again, when I read this and it's about a serial killer, sorry, the wife of a serial killer, I'm like, she keeps getting genres. And it's a thriller, and it's got you on the edge of your seat, and it's brilliantly written. And the fact that, you know, she's dealt with vampires, she's dealt with, you know, banning of knowledge and like subterfuge and everything like that. She's now dealing with serial killers. It shows that she's such a brilliantly versatile author. And I would 100% recommend this book to anyone. I've already bought this book for a couple of my friends. They have all liked it. Joe, as I'm sure you saw in the only guest appearance, just as I was going to start doing guest appearances and when we were given the go-ahead to start meeting people, obviously lockdown happened again. Now we're at tier 4, tier 3, I don't know. So Joe's the only other person that's done a guest star on this show. She won't be the last, but I bought it for her and she thoroughly enjoyed it as well. And her mum's read it and thoroughly enjoyed it. And I can only recommend reading this, to be perfectly honest. It's so good. And I mean, it's gives you thrills, it gives you chills, it gives you everything that you expect. So I give it a 5 out of 5 from me. Obviously, if you do like this book recommendation, if you do end up reading this book based on what I've said, please leave it below in the comments. I love to hear if these are making any difference to people. But please remember to always keep it contento.